Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff.
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I am no longer... I am technically unemployed right now.
Oh, well,
I guess
you're one of those people.
Right. No, I'm just between things.
Yeah.
But no, really, I'm between things.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally between things.
Yeah. So, it's which is exciting. I have this next week off.
Cool.
And by off, I mean I don't have work.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. But, no, I'm kind of excited about that because I get some time to do some stuff or get some work done around the house, do a little bit of relaxing, and just get ready to start at my new job, which hopefully should be at least a different experience, if not also a better experience, a better work environment. So
cool. Well, I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, thank you. Got
any cool plans for the next week?
I mean, I mostly am cool plans, not so much. But
sure,
plans that I'm gonna try and clear out my garage because I need to do that before it gets too crazy cold and starts like snowing and stuff. So I want to be able to park my car in my garage again.
Mm-hmm.
But we recently got like new furniture, so I get the old furniture sitting in my garage. And my I don't have a truck anymore, so I can't just take it somewhere. So I have to.
Right.
I'm probably gonna call a service to have them come pick it up because I have a couch and 2 chairs and a mattress that I gotta get rid of and there's a ton of boxes in there, but I'll break those down myself. But
do you still have that freakishly heavy TV?
Yes.
Okay, listeners, I'm not sure if this is gonna make it into the final episode or not, but a while ago back when I was building my arcade cabinet, I bought when I was planning to build it, this was before the actual building phase, I bought a TV off Craigslist, and it was so incredibly big. It's not like one of those ones that's like I don't know. It's not. I've seen bigger TVs, I guess is what I'm saying. But this one it was just too big to be usable for any purpose whatsoever.
Right.
And it was so heavy, and Jeff eventually bought it from me because I think you were thinking about setting up some sort of a retro gaming setup as well.
Yeah.
And it's so big. I feel bad for selling that to you.
No, don't feel bad. Like the spot that it's in is not in the way. We have kind of because we don't have we got like a flat screen and it's just on a table that we bought. Sure. And so there's space underneath the table and then we just tucked it in under there. It's not, it's not that big of a deal. It is sort of just there, but it's whatever. Cause it's a giant CRT television. Yeah. And so it's more suited for older forms of video, video formats. So playing retro games on it is a lot more pleasing to the eye than trying to play an old Nintendo 64 game or trying to play an old or a Sega Genesis game on a flat screen HD wide TV. It's all stretched out and weird.
Yeah.
But I still have that. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to end up doing with it. I might still set it up in my basement as a sort of retro gaming spot, but for now it's just sitting in my living room.
Well, I mean, you've got the time to do something with it if you want to this week.
Right, true.
So we played some Pathfinder a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Our monthly game with our high school gaming buddies.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of fun. We actually had I had a talk with the DM kind of at the beginning of the session because I had been thinking that in our previous session that we played, I'm playing a paladin and a lawful good paladin, and there's different codes or whatever that paladins can follow, or sorry, they're called champions in Pathfinder. I was a paladin champion.
Right.
And I was looking over after the previous session. I had been looking over my my oath, the tenets of good that I follow, and I realized that I hadn't necessarily been following some of them. In particular, I had lied about a couple things in the 2 previous sessions, And I don't think Jay, the DM, I don't really think Jay cared. Like, I don't think he would have ever complained about it or brought it up or even like made me lose my abilities or anything. But I had been thinking about it, and I was trying to decide, is there a way that I can reconcile this, or should my character atone for this? If it's something that I can turn into, I was about to say not content, but if I can turn this into an opportunity to grow as a character, then I would like to. And so, I just had a talk with Jay, and I think you and Steve showed up during the tail end of that. And, we just kind of talked about, what necessarily the, how strict I need to adhere to a code, and then also like how we can use that for opportunities in the future and everything. So,
right.
It was cool. I don't think I've really had a conversation like that in a role-playing game in a long time.
Yeah. Well.
Because I'm sure lots of DMs would just not care whatsoever and just be like, dude, I don't care. Let's just keep playing, play your character however you want, whatever. Other DMs might say, oh no, you lied. You lose all your abilities.
Yeah.
I didn't really want either of those. I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to make it an opportunity. I wanted to say, okay, either this is how I can justify it and I will stick to that moving forward, or this is something my character is going to need to wrestle with and then work on that, when we get back to town, when we rest next time, so on and so on.
Right.
So, anyway, I just thought it was something I figured I'd mention because maybe our listeners would like to hear that, there are just the ways that we're looking at those sorts of issues. I think there's a lot of different ways of doing it, and that's the way we did it.
Well, sure. Yeah, because it's when it comes to like the whole paladin like losing their abilities things, like I don't think it should ever be just like a flick of the switch, like, oops, you lied, now you lose all of your abilities.
Yeah.
It definitely should be you lie, and then maybe your deity or something will send you a message like, hey, you did a bad thing,
Sure.
keep an eye on that, bud. It's just it should be a process, not necessarily a like immediate punishment for not playing your character perfectly.
Yeah, especially because like as a player, I'm going to forget what my paladin's oath is.
Right.
My paladin isn't, or is much less likely to than I am,
Yeah.
because my paladin isn't doing her job once a month. She's,
Right.
Like, it's quite different. So it's I feel like anybody who would just as a reaction be like, sorry, you lose your abilities, without checking to make sure, did you intend to do this? The player, did you intend to do this? I don't really think a paladin or a cleric or whatever should lose their abilities for something that was an honest mistake on the player's part. If something's going to happen, I feel like it should be, to some extent at least, it should be an informed decision on the player's part, or maybe the result of numerous transgressions. Just having it be an instant, whoops, now your powers are gone. I just don't think that's fun for anybody.
Right. Yeah, no.
Anyway, I don't really have much else going on. It was a really nice day out today, so I did a bunch of yard work.
Yeah, it was kind of nice today, wasn't it?
Yeah. We have like a little pavilion thing out in our backyard, and every winter we have to take down the tarp, the canvas roof, because if we don't, when it snows, all the snow weighs on it and it will collapse. So I got to take it down every winter and then put it back up every spring. So that's what I did today. I guess that's all I got going on. You want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I want you to imagine that you and the rest of your adventuring party, you're fighting the Dread Gazebo. It is, as you know, it's the horrifying building turned monster.
Oh, no.
Possibly Baba Yaga's hut. Who knows? Anyway, you're in this fight, and then you get hit by a fear spell. Give me a will save.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
A wisdom saving throw.
Right.
Sorry.
I rolled a lucky number 7.
Okay. That's good, because I don't know where this story would go if you succeeded. So you fail, and next thing you know, you are just booking it as fast as you can. You're running away. You like dive into a cave. You're just running away. Whatever you can do to get away from this Dread Gazebo. And while you're running through the cave, it's dark and you don't have a light source, because I've decided that your character doesn't have dark vision. And
well, I certainly don't.
there you go. And then you trip and fall into an unseen pit. And when you come to, you see there is a torch up ahead, and you can see there's light bouncing off something reflective.
Ooh.
And then you do the thing where you sit up and you like rub your eyes like a TV character. And you look and you see that there's a giant pile of riches, a giant pile of magic items and art and so on and so on. And you remember hearing that there was a dragon that lived in this area. And so do you know what you've just stumbled upon, Jeff?
What is it?
You have just stumbled upon the Dragon's Hoard. Today's magic item was submitted by Colton S. via email. And the item is the Scepter of Hitzipo.
Hitzipo.
This scepter is of fine wood with many intricate sketchings along the handle that glows with radiant light and holds a golden hand on top of it. Made by a lizard folk deity known as Hitzipo and given to Varak as an answer to his prayers saying, "Trade my life for those around me and let them prosper." For his settlement was struggling and secluded within a dangerous jungle. With this scepter blessed with godly power, Varak turned his struggling settlement into an Atopia made of gold and prosperity. 10 years later, Hitzipo came to Varak to claim what had been promised, and being filled with pride and gluttony, Varak refused. This angered Hitzipo, and so he cursed the land and had smitten Varak. It is said that the scepter is buried within Varak's tomb. The survivors say it should never see the light of day again, fearful that it will remind Hitzipo of Varak's sin. This scepter is considered an artifact and holds 3 charges regained at the dawn of each day. The scepter can cast 3 spells, and all targets have disadvantage to any saves. The first of its ability, which costs 1 charge, is Flesh to Stone, but it turns them into gold as the hand on the scepter is clutched like a fist.
Cool.
And this is, like I said, that is 1 charge. The second ability also costs 1 charge. The second ability is Sunbeam, but also grows crops within the affected area as the index finger is outstretched. And then the third ability, which costs 2 charges, the third ability is Divine Word, but the range is doubled as the hand's thumb and ring finger is pinched together. And for anybody who is not familiar with the Divine Word spell, it's an area effect spell that you say a word of divine power, and then based on the target's hit points, it either deafens them, blinds them, stuns them, or kills them. Or all of them, I guess. Maybe not. I mean, killed kind of supersedes all of those. So anyway, yeah. So mechanics-wise, this is a pretty simple item. It's really just kind of, it's an artifact that has these 3 abilities that it can use once per day. And then also the targets have disadvantage to any saves against them. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, Flesh to Stone, but it turns them into gold. Sunbeam that grows crops. And Divine Word with a doubled range.
Nice.
So yeah, what do you think?
I think it's really cool. Yeah. I like this. It's just I really like the Sunbeam that also grows crops. That's really cool.
Sure.
Flesh to Stone, which turns them into gold. It's very like Hand of Midas.
Yes.
No, this is a pretty neat item with a really cool theming.
Here's the thing. I feel like mechanically it's not really artifact level.
Sure.
Except for those abilities that you just mentioned. Except if it was just Flesh to Stone, if it was just Sunbeam, I don't really think this would be an artifact. Like, that's not really a huge, like, artifact story-wise. It can't be reproduced. It's created by a god and so on.
Right.
But power-wise, that's not really that big. However, being able to create a giant, like a human-sized pile of gold 3 times every day.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Being able to instantly grow crops. That's a big deal. Like those, I would say the crops one especially is largely a story thing, but put this in a community and suddenly the world has been changed by this artifact.
Right.
So I think this is actually an interesting look at how power doesn't necessarily have to be mechanical. Like, seriously, this would be something coveted by the entire world if this were just out there and everybody knew where it was.
Yeah.
Kings would would send entire nations' armies after this item.
Right. Yeah, so like, yeah, like it's not necessarily like, I don't know, like combat powerful, but it is very power in like the political sense or in the,
yes,
you know.
Yeah. There is a small tangent for a moment. There is an artifact in the Epic Level Handbook, the 3rd edition Epic Level Handbook, and it's an artifact in the Epic Level book. So it's like you would think it would be like a super artifact, and all it is a coin purse that if you put 1 gold coin in it, the next day there are 2 gold coins in it. You can't put anything. You can't put more than 1. If you put more than 1, nothing happens. If you put a platinum coin, nothing happens. It's just 1 gold coin in a day becomes 2 gold coins. And that similarly, it's like, I mean, that's not very powerful. That's a heck of a lot less powerful than this. However, story-wise, it still is a huge deal because if someone had that their entire life, they would have, literally endless money. I mean, maybe not literally endless money, but they would have, that would be a huge thing in the world. That would be something passed down from generation to generation. Every family would probably have one person that is their job every day to just go and make sure that they take out the 2 coins that are in there and put in 1 new one and so on.
Yeah.
It's such a small mechanical thing, but I can still understand why it would be an artifact.
Yeah, depending on the setting, like a single gold coin is, for a commoner, is a big deal.
Sure.
So like, that's for a commoner, for like somebody living on a commoner's salary or whatever, like a free gold every day.
Yeah.
Is like, I was like, well, you're living pretty decent at that point.
I just think it's interesting to think about, not everyone in the world is an adventurer. So what would, what are some artifacts and such tailored to non-adventurers?
Right.
Yep. So anyway, I don't really have much else to say about this. It's pretty simple mechanics wise, but I think that it does have that really cool little like deceptively interesting bit of power that it's got there. So once again, that was the Scepter of Hitsupo from Colton S. via email. Thank you very much, Colton. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like Colton and submit magic items for the Dragon Sword, or submit questions for our main segment, or stories for our funeral pyre or retirement village, or whatever else we're doing with our last segment, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord. That's
correct. And as we have basically ended, we have pretty much finished doing all of our giveaways for the rest of the podcast. I just want to say thank you to all of the people who have entered our drawings. Thank you to Crit Academy for giving us so many things to give away over the years. Thank you to Seawood Scribe for giving us a couple, something this year and something last year. Thank you to Goblin Stone for giving us Chapel on the Cliffs to give away so long ago. It's been great. I don't have any tangible numbers on like how much people, whether that brought any new listeners to us or whether that brought anything new, any new revenue to them. But I love that we've been able to give away stuff over the last few years. It's been really cool. It's great to be able to do that for people. And I'm super thankful to everybody who entered, and thankful especially to everybody who gave us things to give out. So big thank you to all of them.
Yeah.
Just one more thing before we get into questions. Check out Crit Academy, critacademy.com. It's a great podcast with Justin and all of them. They make new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. By the time this episode goes out, their Extraordinary Expeditions Kickstarter will have ended. As of this recording, it's very close to have met their goal, but it's not there yet. So I hope they make it there in time. Whether they do or they don't, I'm sure they'll continue to put out great stuff in the future.
Yeah.
And then check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast on the network. We had Jake and Dan on our podcast as guests a long time ago. The number is escaping me at the moment. I apologize. But, great guys over there. Also check out D&D Character Lab and check out the Kind GM podcast as well. So enough of all the admin. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
All right, our first question comes from Canadian Health Sarah on Reddit.
Canadian Health Sarah!
Maybe it's Health Sarah.
I don't know.
This was on Reddit, and they ask, what should I do when my players would rather be store owners than adventurers?
Yeah, so I feel like this may not be a common problem, but I'm sure everybody's heard stories of a party that they realized after, a couple sessions or whatever, they realized like, oh, we could sell this stuff. We just found all of this, gear. We, in the Age of Worms adventure path, there's like a room that has an endless supply of iron spheres. And so I've heard of people in that campaign just being like, oh, let's just sell iron. We've got a seemingly endless supply of it. Let's just go into the iron business. Or maybe a party opens up a tavern or wants to open up a tavern. And I'm sure it's easy for the DM to be like, oh, but I've got this cool adventure for you. Mm-hmm. Don't stay in the village and sell stuff. Go on this adventure. Yeah. So what advice would you give to a DM who might be grappling with that problem right now?
Well, the first thing that came to mind was like, what are they going to have in the store? Oh, sure. Maybe they can sell things that they find on their adventures. So give them a store, just have them also try to make it so that they have the store, but they're, but going on to the adventures is going to help them improve their store.
Sure.
I think
there's a video game that I picked up a while ago called Moonlighter.
Yes.
And that game, I picked it up because I like roguelikes, and it's a roguelike dungeon crawler kind of, but then you go into a dungeon, you kill monsters, you pick up loot, and then you take the loot back to your village, and then between every trip to the dungeon, you run a shop. And so you have to have all these items. You have to decide, okay, which ones am I going to sell? How much am I going to sell them for? And then you got to like manage your shop. So like people will come in and like try to steal stuff. So you have to chase after them and get it back. Or you have to like hire guards to watch over the store. And then you have to upgrade your store so you have more space to sell stuff. And then you can the more money and the more clout you get, you can bring in like a blacksmith that will give you better gear to go back into the dungeon, and so on and so on. Mm-hmm. And that could be a very satisfying gameplay loop in D&D as well. The party's got to sell something. If they're getting all this stuff from dungeons, well, they run out of the stuff from that first dungeon. They got to go to another dungeon and then go get that stuff and then sell it again,
Yeah. They're like collecting cool, neat trinkets and treasures and stuff to fill out your store. Like, I don't know. Like, that sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, it does. There could also be quests that come about because they're yes, they are store owners or whatever, but they are still adventurers. So somebody might show up and say, hey, I hear that there's a monster that its horn is said to sell for whatever. You could go hunt that monster, get its horn, and then sell that. And then give me, quest giver could say like, then just give me a finder's fee or whatever. Maybe they have a shipment coming in and it's been ransacked. Some bandits attacked the shipment and then made off with it. Now the party has to go and find it.
Right, but then it's like you find out that there's a bandit ring going on, and there's like a lot of shipments are getting stolen. So like, well, stuff's gonna keep getting stolen unless you deal with this bandit, this group of bandits.
Sure.
So you might got to go find their hideout and stuff like that. So like, yeah, maybe make adventures around them wanting to run a store, and I don't know, like maybe it wasn't what you planned exactly, but you can always repurpose some stuff and throw in some things that you had originally planned, but change it to suit what the players want to do.
Yeah, definitely. So the I would say probably the quote unquote best answer is, let them be store owners and then just build the campaign around it. Another couple ideas, you could actually kind of make their store into part of a dungeon. Maybe they're, they move into a rundown building and then they're clearing it out. And then maybe one session they all show up at the table and you tell them that, you go into the basement, you're clearing out some, there's a bunch of like debris, like part of the basement caved in many years ago, and you're clearing it out and you find a stone door that has arcane runes on it. And then they go and they figure out how to open it. And then there's an entire dungeon underneath their store. Maybe that dungeon has numerous levels, and in order to get to the lower levels, they have to get some sort of obscure key from some other dungeon. So now it's like a campaign spanning quest to eventually get to the bottom of this dungeon. And then while they're going through this dungeon, they're getting more stuff to sell in their store up above.
Mm-hmm.
There's a podcast. I don't know if any of you out there have ever heard of it. I guess it's probably kind of popular. It's called like something Roll, like Critical Role or something. Anyway,
yeah, I might have heard of that.
I've never listened to Critical Role. I've looked at it in the past and then saw that they had, like 500 4-hour episodes, and I was like, oh, too much for me. They just started a new campaign, and so I thought, okay, maybe I'll check this one out. I listened to the first episode of it. I wasn't super impressed. I'll give it some more time. But I was on Stitcher. I was using my Stitcher on my phone. And it has this annoying feature where, depending on how you got to the podcast in the first place, it won't play them in order. It'll play them in reverse order, which is kind of annoying most of the time. But anyway, I listened to the first episode, and then it went to whatever they played before the first episode, which was like before the first episode of the current campaign. So it went to like some little interstitial bonus episode that they did. And this bonus episode was about these adventurers who run a tavern. And it was hilarious and it was fun. And it's like, I want to play a campaign that is about people that run a tavern. Like, yeah. I think part of the story was that they're running this tavern. It's not great, but it's the only, place to eat within however far. But then the inn across the street starts selling food and everybody loves it. And they've got great food and it's all free. And so they go over there and then they find out, oh, there's some sort of nefarious means behind how they're able to do this. And then it does lead below the building and then so on and so on. And it was a lot of fun. And that's something that a lot of DMs might shy away from because they'll be like, oh, I want the party to be out adventuring. I don't want them to be here back at the tavern. But if they're back here at the tavern, the adventure can come to them. And also there are plenty of reasons to get them to go out to the adventure and still be able to come back. So I am very much in favor of like, let them do it.
Yeah.
Let them do it. Find ways to make that be cool. I'm a huge fan of the space that they already live in suddenly has additional areas. Like they find a door in the basement or like some sort of magical phenomenon causes, a new part of the building to show up or something. I don't know. I'm all for stuff like that, like story elements like that. Another option, this might not be the best option, but it's still an option. Let them do it. And they might not find it as fun as they thought it was. Sure. Yeah. Running a business. I've never run a business, but I presume it is not as fun as everybody might think it is. If you actually play out, okay, make some rolls for getting stock, make some rolls for, salesmanship and so on. They might do it and then they might be like, this isn't really very much fun. Let's just go back to being adventurers.
Yeah, I feel like that might change some people's minds.
I guess, yeah. I mean, so depending on how well you do it as a DM, maybe it'll be fun, maybe it won't. But you could also, here's another idea. You can kind of marry those two ideas. If their characters want to start being store owners, have them start new characters in the same campaign that know the store owners, and then they can go off. Maybe they could even be the suppliers for the store. So their old characters are the shopkeepers. Their new characters are going out into dungeons, getting stuff, bringing it back, and then passing it on to be sold. And then maybe every now and then you could have an adventure as the old characters. A new store opens up, and then the old characters have to go and investigate that, and so on and so on. There's definitely fun that can be had from just letting the players do it. It might not be what you had in mind when you started the campaign. And that's, that is something to maybe bring up in session 0, but I doubt the players knew in session 0 how it was going to play out.
Right.
So, like, this is one of those situations where you should try not to say no. You should say yes and then find a way to make it really cool. And the idea of having them play multiple characters and their old characters are running the store is very much tied to my suggestion in a previous episode of a person playing 2 characters that swap places in the party between adventures.
Right.
I think I talked about like a person could play a married couple and they're both the same class, and then one of them stays back and works the store and the other one goes off adventuring, and then they swap places and the other one goes on adventures and so on. So I'm very much in favor of this idea, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. It's a fun idea. It's somebody who likes to, play all different kinds of characters.
Yeah. Because, hey, DM, you might find you really enjoy running a store campaign more than you enjoyed running the, plot heavy whatever campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be fun.
Because, hey, dungeons are a lot of work and can be boring. So maybe you'll enjoy all of the, goofy stuff that happens with a store. Who knows? I do feel like there was a book, a 3rd edition book a while ago called, I think it was the Stronghold Builder's Guidebook. If this is the book I'm thinking of, I might be mistaken on which book it is. But they had, it was about building, a keep or a castle or a mansion, whatever. And then they had like a table you could roll on for various events that might happen. And it might be like, oh, a dragon attacks your castle, or, a traveling circus comes through town. A world-renowned monster slayer shows up, and now you have to entertain him, and you have to keep him from getting into trouble, or else, you might not, you might get really bad press from the community or whatever. And so anyway, it was like a list of interesting events that can happen to your stationary location that would be useful whether you're running a castle or if you're running a business. You could still use a chart like that to give you ideas for what sort of things might happen if the players are staying fairly stationary.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll see if I can find which book that was in and then put it in the show notes or something. I hate being as frustratingly vague as that, but I'll see what I can do. So again, there's lots of options. Let them do it.
All right. Our next question comes from the DM's Council on Discord, and they ask, imagine an NPC pays the party to make them famous by staging a battle or giving them credit for some heroic act. How would you do this throughout the campaign?
Yeah. So, I'm trying to think of exactly how to get discussion out of this one. So the premise is somebody really needs just fame or recognition or whatever, maybe a recognition from a specific person. And so they come to the party and they say, okay, I need you to make me famous. First, let's say, what are some ideas you can think of for how you would do this? Now, there's 2 examples given: staging a battle with them, like having them show up and defeat you in combat or something. Also, just, go around telling people, oh no, we didn't defeat the dragon. Sam over here, Sam killed the dragon instead. We were just there as backup or whatever. Can you think of any other ideas for how the party could use their fame, or their notoriety, I guess, in order to help someone else gain fame or recognition?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was like, it's like some rich person who wants to be famous, like somebody who's got money but wants to be famous. So they're they're a quest giver that also wants to tag along, and they want to they want to go along with the adventure. Mm-hmm. And then they're very cowardly the whole time or something like that. So the players have to protect him, and then at the end of every battle, he says well, good thing I was here, kind of a thing.
Sure.
And at the end of it, he's like, look, guys, I'll pay you double if you let me, tell everybody that it was me that killed the dragon.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you could just have them be, have them bribe the players to let them take all the credit.
Yeah.
And then like, it can be a running thing where like anytime you go into that town, like you see like pictures and posters of the guy up everywhere. Like they're being hailed as this big hero, and he's really milking it, and he's really like, he's really playing it up. But then like, people are asking more and more of him. They're like, "Oh, you slayed a dragon. Now we want you to go do these other things." And he's like, "Shoot, I can't actually do this." So he keeps hiring the players back to do the work.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So it could be like, a reoccurring adventure, like quest giver.
Sure. This isn't exactly what the question was asking, but so are you familiar with the superhero, the DC superhero Captain Marvel or Shazam?
Yeah.
So there was this, for anybody not familiar, I mean, there's a movie that came out just a couple of years ago, so I feel like most people will probably be familiar, but there was this DC superhero who he was this kid that would say this magic word, and he would suddenly basically become Superman, and he would be able to fly, be able to be super strong, and so on. And at some point, a long time ago, my wife gave me, I think she got it at a garage sale or something, this like one of those huge, thick books of like every like old comic that this series ever had. And so it was like all of the, I don't know, 50s or 60s comics. So they were super duper cheesy, super like very old fashioned. And it was of Captain Marvel, what it was called. And then I remember flipping through it, and there were various eras of this comic strip, of this comic book. And at one point they tried introducing like the Marvel family. And so there was Captain Marvel, or again, they later changed his name to Shazam because Marvel was another comic company. So there was Captain Marvel, who was the main, the kid that becomes a big, strong guy. Then there was like Kid Marvel. There was like, I don't know, Sister Marvel or something. And then there was this old guy that was like Grandpa Marvel. Mm-hmm. And as far as I could tell from the comics that I read, he did not have any actual powers. Everyone knew he didn't have any actual powers, but he would still act like he took part in every fight. He'd always be like, "Oh, I would go fight that bad guy, but oh gosh, my super arthritis is bothering me, so I think I'm gonna have to sit this one out." And everyone would just kind of be like, "Oh, you," and then they would go off and fight the monster. And so it was just kind of something that was like acknowledged by everybody, I guess, but still everybody still played along that he was, he still deserved some of the glory for whatever. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be a thing that they're like keeping up a fiction that like they're afraid they're going to get exposed at any moment. It can just be a fun little thing that like everybody kind of rolls their eyes like, yeah, Grandpa, okay, you killed the dragon. And then maybe they actually do kill a dragon in like the final part of the campaign or whatever. I don't know. So, but yeah, you definitely, you had some great ideas with having them like they need to keep proving this, so they keep rehiring the party. It would even be cool if maybe like there were some adventures that whoever this rich person is actually accidentally unleashed like an ancient evil or something because they were trying to live up to the stories about themselves. Somebody was like, "Oh, you're the one who supposedly killed that dragon or whatever. Well, maybe you can come along with me to this dungeon." And then they're like, "Well, okay, I guess I have to." So they go along, and then they accidentally, I don't know, they get like a cut on their hand and accidentally spill blood on the altar, and then a giant demon comes out or something. Yeah. And the party has to come and save them from that.
Right.
I think I like this idea. I think it's, as far as working it into a full campaign, it might be a little hard because I feel like the players are either going to play along or they're not. If they're going to play along, the players will probably do most of the work for you. But if they're not going to play along, I could very easily see a player getting kind of sick of this.
Right, yeah.
Like, somebody could easily expose this guy, so why wouldn't one of the players just go ahead and do it?
Right, which I mean, like, I guess you just got to understand that's one of the options. That's something that can happen. Like, do they go out of their way to, expose the guy or, not, and if they do, The idea that like it's a rich guy who also wanted to have this, fame.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he's rich, so maybe he has like his own like private guard or something that he sends after you or something, or he becomes basically a reoccurring villain at that point because he's always trying to get back at them for exposing him.
Sure. Maybe he gets exposed and then is ruined, loses all of his money, loses everybody that cared about him, kicks him to the curb, and then maybe some evil deity or like a demon shows up to him and says, hey, I can get you your life back if you pledge allegiance to me or something.
Right.
And then he becomes the big bad, at least for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I've talked about this on the podcast. We've been doing this for a long time, so I've talked about this a few times at least, but I'll bring it up again. When I was playing as my character Ichi, this was actually something that the rest of the party did on purpose. My character was just kind of this big, dumb barbarian that made a big show of everything he did. And so the rest of the party, who were involved in a lot of underhanded things, would purposely give all of the credit to Ichi. We would go on an adventure, and then story starts spreading about how we, took down this group of drow in the Underdark and so on. And then, conveniently, all of the stories that get spread around only mention Ichi. They say, oh yeah, Ichi walked in, he killed a bunch of drow, killed a bunch of undead, the undead slayer. Yeah, he was awesome. He did it all by himself. And then they stay out of the limelight. Nobody looks further into it because they don't need to, because, there's Ichi, this celebrity that everybody's been talking about. Yeah, he's right over there. Let's go party with him. Obviously, he's strong and he's famous, so, we don't really need to worry about who actually did it. And so over the course of the campaign, there were even adventures I wasn't present for that my character still got credit for because, again, the rest of the party, they told people about it. They had all of their connections tell people about it in such a way that just made it sound like Ichi was the one doing everything. So when my character got to be world famous, it was not because he necessarily did anything that made him world famous. It's because he had the best PR campaign in the campaign. And that was the rest of the party doing everything they can to keep anyone from knowing that they were there at all. Because then when the assassins come, the assassins are coming for me. They're not coming for them. So unscrupulous party members might still play along with the, doddering old man who says that he killed the dragon, because when that dragon's brother comes along, when that dragon's mother comes along and wants to take revenge on their family member, they're not going to be coming for the party. They're going to be coming for this person that doesn't deserve the credit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be just, everybody rolls their eyes and plays along, or it could be, no, yeah, it was totally him. He did everything. I wasn't even there. I was somewhere else. Who am I? You don't even know who I am. I'm nobody. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who's telling you about the great deeds of, Mr. Nobleman over here.
Yeah.
So as with a lot of things, there's a lot of different ways that you can play it, and, it could be fun. I do like the idea of having this sort of thing have campaign spanning repercussions, either that the party exposes this person and then somehow or another they come back for a vengeance, or maybe they give the person enough credit and then eventually they become world famous, and now they actually have all of the contacts and the resources that the party needs. So they're able to come up when the party's in need at a higher level and be like, hey, you guys helped me out before. I wouldn't be where I am without you. So I'm going to do everything I can to help you. There's lots of ways that you can have that, keep popping up. And I think it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, have any of your characters ever gotten married or attended a wedding in game? Tell us about it. Do you recall if you had an answer, Jeff?
I don't think I remember anything like that happening before. Possibly there might have been something where we were like at a wedding or near a wedding or had to go to maybe it was just like a party or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember anything about a wedding specifically in any adventures I've been in.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a character get married during the campaign. I've had a couple characters that I've decided after the campaign was over. A couple characters that I've decided got married. But hasn't really happened in game, which is kind of a shame. I think that an adventure that takes place like a wedding gets crashed by some bad guys or something could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I know there's the game Castle Crashers. Is a game that I'm a huge fan of, and there's a part of that's the story is that these 4 princesses or whatever get kidnapped, and when you rescue one of them that you rescue is in the middle of getting married to this evil knight. And so you show up, you fight him. There's an organ, a giant pipe organ in the background that has a bunch of cannons as pipes. And then while the fight's going on, it is firing cannons in various patterns on the floor. And it's actually really, really cool. So
yeah. Oh man, what a game.
Right. So anyway, so that was those were our responses over on Facebook. We didn't really get very many responses to this, which is understandable. Both of us said no to the answer.
Right.
Sean M on Facebook says, no, but I'm introducing my girlfriend to D&D, and we started making characters that know each other. We each will have the Phaelost background, and I happened to roll up my 3 trinkets and got 2 U rings attached together. So okay. Yeah, it's in the cards. I suppose it's in the dice.
Right.
I suppose. That's the only one we got on Facebook. Over on Reddit, Pruno says, the gnome illusionist met Lady Foppington on the airship the Edmund Fitzgerald. That I just want to say that sentence is fantastic. Air pirates crashed the party and the gnome heroically saved her. The last adventure of the campaign was their wedding day, where the wedding was crashed by a returning villain, a Delic from Mechanus. Day was saved, they got married, and the gnome became mayor of magical Detroit, where his illusions and lies eventually caught up with them.
Oh man,
I got ahead of myself with that first sentence. This whole paragraph is chef's kiss.
It's something else.
It's something else, definitely. We didn't get any on Twitter, and just a couple on Discord. Deborah Soar says, yep, there was a convention event called A Wedding or a Funeral before they took downtime events away. There was a mass ceremony where you had to do in-character vows, and my ranger got married to my Bay's wild magic sorcerer. We both got +2 to wisdom out of it. The funeral gave constitution. I think that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
There was a third-party 3rd edition book called Relics and Rituals. It was mainly spells, but there were also magic items. There was also rituals. They hadn't really worked out exactly what rituals were in D&D at the time, but there was a marriage ritual in there, and it was basically just kind of like I guess it was sort of like a spell that you cast, but it was a ritual that you went through, and then afterwards, the 2 people that had gotten married got like a bonus to their insight or like sense motive. I think that's what it was. I like the idea of your characters get married, therefore you do get some kind of a mechanical benefit. It doesn't need to be there. I'll be honest, I don't think in real life getting married has a mechanical benefit. Maybe some drawbacks. I'm not going to, I wouldn't argue if somebody said that.
Wait.
Not anything quantifiable, at least. But I like the idea of there being a mechanical reason to do it. I just think it's cool. It's like, I don't need to do this as my character, but if there is a mechanical thing that could represent my character's devotion to someone else, I think that would be really cool.
Have we talked about there's like a Paladin spell in 5th edition, I think?
Is there? Oh, wait a minute. There is, isn't there?
Or is like there's a spell called like Ceremony or something like that.
Yes, actually, you are correct. The Ceremony spell. It's a 1st level evocation ritual. Takes an hour to cast, a range of touch, costs 25 gold worth of powdered silver. And this is actually where this is kind of a bunch of earlier edition spells mixed together.
Yeah.
Bless water, for example, is one of them. Like you can touch a vial of water and make it holy water. That's one use of this spell. There's also Atonement, which used to be a much higher level spell. Now it's 1st level. That's pretty cool. So Atonement is another, is one of the things. There's also Coming of Age, Dedication, Funeral Rite, Investiture, and then Wedding. You touch adult humanoids willing to be bonded together in marriage. For the next 7 days, each target gains a +2 bonus to AC while they're within 30 feet of each other. A creature can benefit from this right again only if widowed.
Only if widowed.
Yeah. That's I mean, that's a really good benefit, which I think is why they gave it a 7-day limit.
Right.
If it were a less good benefit, but it lasted longer, I think that would maybe be a little cooler, but who knows? It's cool as it is.
Yeah.
I love that it exists. And I didn't even think of that because I don't know anyone who's ever used this spell. Perfectly honest.
I just remember, I feel like I remember looking up all the ritual spells and seeing that one and be like, oh, this is actually kind of cool.
Yeah. I remember when I ran Shackled City for you, Steve, and Bridget a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
During the Flood Festival adventure, I had come up with a whole bunch of things that happen in the things that can happen in the town that day. And I had decided that each of the 4 main churches would give you some sort of a boon, like a temporary boon if you went to one of their services that day. And one of the churches was the Church of Detroya, who was the goddess of community. And I think there was if you get married, if you have a wedding ceremony that day at that church, you get some sort of a benefit. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I had completely forgotten about that.
Detroit or Magical Detroit.
I mean, well, oh boy, we're coming full circle. So that was Debrasor. Stilton Kupo 84 says, not in-game, no, but directly after the campaign's completion, Og the Minotaur got 2 wives, a human paladin and a dwarven princess, both marital arcs foreshadowed in-game. And it was decided that not long after, he'd pick up a 3rd Minotaur bride. And shortly after that, he was famously beheaded, which I believe was one of our first funeral pyre stories. So, yeah, there you go. He loved it so much, he did it 3 times. And then Black Magus 2651 says, yes, Sarah, my wizard sorcerer, got married to V, the party's rogue. They had 3 children, and I even played one of them in a later timeline.
Oh, that's cool.
And that is really cool. I love the idea of playing a character in a campaign that is related to a character in a previous campaign.
Yeah.
And so having it be one of the children of your previous character, I think is really cool.
Ooh, that actually kind of reminds me. There's a game I picked up on Steam. It's called Wilder Myth. It's like a tactical grid-based combat game, but there's a sort of choose your own adventure style, storybook style, and it's got some mix. It's a bit of a mixed bag of genres. I may have talked about this before.
It sounds familiar, but go on.
But you'll have a few characters, and they have sort of randomly generated personalities and things like that. But anyway, there's a chance that they could that they might have a romance or something and have a kid, and then that kid might pop up later as a new adventure as time progresses and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I like, and then there's other games like that where you do where you will sometimes have characters that have kids, and then the kids are now then playable characters.
Sure.
But I like that. Yeah, I do like that kind of stuff. That is really neat. I think the what's the game? Shoot, Fire Emblem.
Okay. I imagine there's probably weddings in that series.
Well, I know at least in some of the newer Fire Emblem games, I know there's some mechanic where you have characters playing, battling together, and then the more they battle together, the better their relationship is, and then they'll sometimes have a romantic relationship, and will sometimes have kids, and I think those kids can join the army or something. I don't know. I haven't really played very many
many implications.
Yeah, I haven't played much of the Fire Emblem series, but I do remember playing a demo where that in one of the games that had that sort of as a thing that could happen.
All right, that was our last social media question. Thank you everybody who wrote in. Our next social media question is, do your characters tend to all use the same weapon, or do you try to have each one use a different weapon than the others?
I feel like I do sometimes. Well, hard to say. It does depend on the build, because if I'm coming up with a character idea and then I want it to be like an optimal build version of that character concept, like I will sometimes like try and just find the weapon that works best with that build.
Okay.
But I mean, sometimes that does lend to it being like a different weapon each time, because I am just sort of like coming up with ideas and then trying to find what fits best for it.
Sure.
So,
but it's not necessarily a deliberate thing.
Not always. No. I do like. I mean, there was a while where I was just like, okay, swords are cool. Like, who wouldn't use it? Who wouldn't just use a sword? Why wouldn't you just use a sword? Swords are the coolest.
Yeah.
And then eventually I'm like, no, hammers are awesome. Like hammers. Hammers are great. Like, I want just like a big war hammer. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So like, I like big war hammers, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give every single one of my characters a big war hammer.
Sure. I'm probably in the majority in that I often end up playing characters with longswords.
Right.
I just think longswords they're just really good. If you have proficiency in them, I think they're one of the better options to go with. The earlier editions have kind of, had different advantages and disadvantages. Like in 3rd edition, they got criticals more often, whereas other weapons might get criticals less often, but do more damage on a critical. In 4th edition, longswords actually had the best attack, but you got your proficiency bonus with the weapon was higher depending on what weapon it was. So like you got a better proficiency bonus with a longsword than you did with, say, a warhammer, even though a warhammer would do more damage. So it was like a trade-off of, do I want to deal more damage or do I want to have a better chance of hitting? And I always want to have a better chance of hitting, as most people probably do. So, in 4th edition, I pretty much always used a longsword whenever possible. Sometimes it's deliberate because I do like longswords. However, I think it's just longswords just always end up feeling like they're the best weapon available. So,
yeah, they're very sort of, they're reliable.
Yeah. I also tend to usually do sword and board if it's an option. So
yeah.
Again, because longswords are pretty good for their category. That's what I usually end up going with. I know some other people go 2-weapon fighting. Some people go, a 2-handed weapon or whatever, but not me.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, let's wind down. Let's relax. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives that we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Rev Dragon on Reddit, and this actually sort of connects kind of to what we were talking about last week about becoming a god. Spoilers. Anyway. My ex-slave kobold rogue and the rest of the party accidentally helped free an ancient evil being that took over the universe. He made each of us demigods using a small fraction of his power. But my character, Chiron, was so distraught at their catastrophic mistake and the idea of being this being's plaything for eternity. He used his newfound powers to erase his own existence. The only campaign I've ever, quote-unquote, lost. Yeah. That sucks, I guess, that you kind of doomed the whole universe, but hey, I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Chiron. As we say, at least you went out on your own terms. Clink. All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Reddit, we're on our Interparty Discord, we're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on the podcatcher of your choice. We are on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you want to support the show monetarily, we aren't really putting out new rewards. However, there are still hundreds of outtakes, dozens of bonus episodes, a bunch of fantasy fiction that I wrote a few years ago. There is tons and tons of stuff, and it's all available on the $1 tier. You could join for 1 month, get it all, and then cancel if you want. I don't care. But if you want to just help us with hosting fees over the foreseeable future, every little bit helps. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games.
Yes. Also, head over to bit.ly/InterPartyConflict to take a quote-unquote short survey. And by that, I mean just tell us what your favorite memory was of the show. And if you take that quote-unquote survey, you will get 2 free printable board games courtesy of the great people over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
All right, Gabe, it's closing time. Could you lock the door before you leave?